Dzień dobry.
Good morning. Welcome on the day 4 of infraBIM. This is the last day, unfortunately, and so for today we have planned 2 plenary sessions and 6 workshops. And the plenary presentations will be in Polish, except for one from Tomasz Lędrowski, and they will be interpreted into English. And the speakers will be asked to stay on Zoom. And by the end of the session, they will participate in the Q&A session, chat Q&A session. So whenever you ask your questions, please specify who you would like to answer the questions. It is easier for us to identify the questions. And the first speaker will be Radosław Radziecki, representing CE Group, the BIM Level 2 in Practice case study. The floor is yours. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Let me explain you what BIM Level 2 is, and I will be using the English word level, not Polish word, as this is the British regulations are some kind of template for us. And let me answer the question why BIM and why it is helpful in advanced technically and non-banal buildings. And this is what I would like to explain with the Małopolska Center of Science Cogiteon in Krakow. And in this presentation, I will be telling you what BIM Level 2 is. I will make a presentation of Cogiteon facility. I will describe the demand of the buyer. I will describe the C group scope. I will describe the problem. And I will be discussing the analysis to solve the problems. I will describe the results of the analysis. What is BIM Level 2? BIM Level 2, it is teamwork. It is strictly defined exchange of information among the teams. And the model is a central place where each designers need to find the information necessary for them from other sub-industries. And the best way to cooperate is using the same model. However, this requirement will be implemented by BIM Level 3. And based on BIM Level 2, the model is the central place for storing of all the information under the project. And with all the information in one place, it is easy to generate all drawings necessary for the construction. And so you can use the one model for this. And a set of rules which I have defined have been introduced in the UK in 2016 as a standard for public sector projects, and strictly defined ideas for implementation included in the document PAS 1192 to 2013, and there are defined the requirements for preparation of investments and carrying out of investments according to BIM Level 2. As an example of applying BIM Level 2 in practice, let me tell you about Cogiteon Center of Science and C Group. That was a designing office together with designed a 20,000 square meters facility for education of children and youth, and this will have very extensive functions. There are multiple installations included, and 15 large suction and in outlet and inlet ventilation systems. And the buyer, as a public authority on the competition level, has risen the bar very high for BIM, and the requirement is that the 7D needs to be included, and very BEP plan needs to be included, and the defining of details using LOD and the detailed names of individual elements of models and the parametrical structure of individual elements of the model and the discipline codes for individual sub-industries. And the scope of the C Group designing office was a very interesting source of heat and cold using the heat pumps, using the tank under the building, located under the building. And we also had fire safety installation, heating installation, VAC installation, and in networks and sewer system, compressed air installation, and the road system. And the major problem we have faced in the designing phase, on the conceptual phase, it was the location of the ventilator room, where there are located 6 large ventilation systems, and also the compressor house for the compressed air. And on the concept level, we started analysis how to put the ventilation room to the underground garage, and that was also the expectation of the architecture's office. And here you can see the facility from the concept phase, and this is how, when we started locating of facilities, and the machine house was intended to be located in the garage. So using the single model, we were able to very suggestively using understanding that with ventilation room in that location, we would lose at least 5 parking places, and 5 more installations were required to be located. So we also needed that we will have to deepen the garages, and also the ceilings need to be much higher, and for this reason deepening of the garage would be required. And so with the analyzing using the 3D modeling, it turned out that necessary is another story underground. And this video shows the final shape of the facility, and you can see much more details due to increased LOD accuracy. You can also see that we managed together with the designers and architects to find some location place for the ventilation room, and for additional stories which have not been included in the original concept. And with the 3D and the consultation with architects, we have developed the final shape of the ventilation room, and was tailor-made, so we were able to design optimal facility in terms of the functions and cost. And in this view, we have compared the facility from the early concept and the final execution stage, and the cost of changes increased significantly together with its advancement. So early understanding of the needs by all the cooperating teams, and I'm talking about the architects and constructors, installators, is very important. And this can eliminate very expensive changes on the further stages of the project. And this example showed how helpful tool is integrated model, and how it simplifies understanding and information sharing. Thank you very much for your attention, and let me show you a short presentation from this very interesting project. Thank you very much. And the second presentation today, that's Rafał Wójtowicz from DataComp, Just Not BIM. Just Not BIM. Good morning. Rafał Wójtowicz, representing DataComp. I'm responsible for BIM technology development. Just Not BIM. Why BIM? BIM again. Probably we need to wait. Users frequently are discouraged with complication of terminology, a number of standards, and high costs of BIM implementation. They also adopt as for the application of the technology and practice. Let me try to clarify those doubts, and I will demonstrate a couple of practical hands-on applications of BIM and interesting places where this technology can be used. These are also surprising. They can be surprising for you, some of them at least. So before I start, let me show a BIM location in the digitization process. As you can see, BIM model plays an important role from the designing phase to the completion of the construction, and then it is absorbed or transferred into a digital twin. And in this form, it will exist until the end of the life cycle of the facility. At the bottom of the drawing, we have a scheme showing the IT tools and the scope of application in individual stages of implementation. And the designing tools and managing tools of the investment are quite well known. So let me just discuss the tools for constructors and individual sub-industries and professionals. It is well illustrated by the offer of the German companies from roofers, painters, and other construction professionals. As you can see, they use a platform BIM Vision. Let me explain what BIM Vision is. The platform involves a free-of-charge browser of IFC models with a very broad functionality and plugins dedicated for individual needs. And the plugins can be created with happy interface by the users, or they can be ordered from Datacom. BIM Vision, as the only Polish BIM application, has been successful worldwide, which is proven by the number of users, more than 200,000, and about 8,000 users have been using it on a daily basis. And the set of plugins includes almost all functionalities necessary to obtain all type of information included in a BIM model. One of those is an interesting and unusual developed under Erasmus Plus plugin for educational purposes, allowing graphically to present loads for environments of water consumption, CO2 emission, and power consumption from some elements, individual elements of the project. And the novelty in our tools group is the external documents plugin. It allows to assign external documents like PDF files or documents or website links to model elements, BIM model elements, and references can be created for the entire model for both active or highlighted elements, and the references are displayed on the features list, and they can be interpreted so they are opened by the operational system with the default elements of the application. So if it is a link, so the link will be opened with a browser displaying a website. In other cases, default application is started for particular type of documents, and all these are stored in BVF set. And other options to use BIM is participation of our company in the BIM Healthy project, and the project is intended to create a cooperation of the construction industry and healthcare industry to promote healthy housing possibilities as a global model of designing in terms of the environmental protection, but also promoting public health. And by integration of the up-to-date BIM technology, state-of-the-art BIM technologies, and the workshop, I will be showing other interesting applications. And the BIM Vision browser was integrated with the classical Zuzia cost estimate system, and this is how we created BIM estimate. This is the first system where the estimator can work directly on a model as it is displayed on the slide. And another example of successful integration with BIM Vision is Valis Connect, and this is a managing of the investment process. Summarizing, BIM is not that difficult or not that expensive as you may think, and it is not that complicated. And particularly for investors or contractors, and advantages can be clearly proven if you break the ice. And of course, not only very expensive and large systems are available, but you can also use some smart, flexible, and cheap, and sometimes free of charge tools are available. It's not worth waiting, and you need to be brave enough to start using this technology, the technology of digitization in the construction industry. And before I finish, I'd like to invite you to the workshop at 4:45. They are intended, the path from the design to cost estimate based on the BIM model. And in the workshops, we will be also discussing the aspects I have been talking about in the presentation. Let me invite you once again to the workshop.
Dziękuję bardzo. A ja z kolei zapraszam wszystkich do...
Thank you very much, and let me ask you to submit your questions, and please ask your question as soon as possible. It will be easier for me to manage time in the discussion. And now let me invite Tomasz Lędrowski from Autodesk.
Good morning. Thank you for your time, which we will spend here in the next 20 minutes, where I want to introduce what is our vision, or how we are dealing with infrastructure with collaboration. So obviously nowadays you can hear a lot about infrastructure, BIM for infrastructure, but in our case it's not only about designing data created in our products, but also we call it connected BIM, because it's important that the BIM data are shared widely across all stakeholders on the project. So we do have a wide range of products which are covering different parts of life cycle of the project. But the goal of this presentation is not to talk about these products itself, but how these products can share the data created within them. And it's not only about the data created in our products, but our vision is that BIM and GIS are working together. What does it mean? So if you are starting infrastructure projects, you are starting not with a blank screen or blank piece of paper, but you should have already some data, some GIS data. So at the beginning, GIS is fueling BIM that you can start the project. Then you will create a BIM project which is finally fueling back GIS. So this is something which is our vision, and we are working on this. If you look at this from different perspective, it's not only about GIS. GIS is, of course, very important part, but if you are starting any projects, it's also about different data which you want to bring it into your model. Again, because you don't want to start with a blank screen, but because you want to start with what is already existing outside, what is already current existing content outside on the surface. And then it can be obviously reality capture, it can be other BIM data from different projects, and it can be also more and more popular IoT, basically Internet of Things, basically information which are gathered outside, and all this we can use in our project information model to create BIM. And talking about this, it's really about data, data, and data. So starting the project, you, according to us, you should have a wide range of opportunity to bring all existing data which are available and create a model out of it, to have a start point for your project. And if we look at it from, let's say, more Polish perspective, it's about vector data, it's about different data services and maybe orthophoto, and it can be obviously more. But in Poland, we can connect to many different portals and services where we can bring data from, and we can start, or you can start your project. And for us, it's really important part of BIM, and this is something which we are working on, which we already have, because in our portfolio we have products which are really dedicated for infrastructure design, like Civil 3D and InfraWorks. They are, we call it dynamic duo, because the data from one software can be easily brought into the another software and other way around. So because InfraWorks is primarily dedicated for preliminary design, then Civil 3D is dedicated for detailed design, but at the end of the day you can bring the data from Civil 3D to InfraWorks to make a final visualization in existing context which you created from GIS data. And I don't want to talk about this in more details, because I believe that now we should move to collaboration, because if you create a BIM model, it's all about the data. And it's important that all stakeholders can share this data. And here you can see, I call it inner circle. So basically, these are really the guys who are creating the projects. And infrastructure projects is obviously, let's say, quite complicated stuff, where you have road, rail, sewage design, maybe pipe pressure, you have to create bridge, environmental stuff has to be taken in account. And these guys, they have to be able to collaborate live on the data. So because they are creating the data which will be finally handed over. But then you have, let's say, outer circle, which are the guys which are the stakeholders on the project, but they are not maybe really creating the data, but they are consuming the data. They have to put their let's say, inputs into the project to be able to successfully finalize the project. And you can see that these guys, they are using maybe some services on cloud, but you can see that there is a lot of different data formats which can be used in the process. And for your information, in our collaboration services, we have possibility to visualize more than 60 different file formats, and this can be used within the process. And you will see in the process how they are basically creating nodes, markups, issue, and so on and so forth. And at the end of the day, the data should be handed over to the investor. And it's mostly about IFC. I don't want to say that inside of the process the IFC cannot be used. Obviously it can be used, but we see as an IFC as a more like handover file format, as an independent format for investor. But again, this file format is also here in this circle, because this can be used within this process anytime, and we can visualize it as well. So our collaboration is about the data, and the data are stored in one location as a one source of truth in common data environment. All stakeholders can access this, and they can work on this data. and the data are stored in cloud. Why? Because cloud is available 24 hours per day, 7 days per week. So they are instantly available, and all people have the latest information, and they don't have to really bother if they are working on the latest data, if the data which they posted are used by other people, because we do have obviously audit trail where you can check who did what and how and so on and so forth. But it's not only about the data. It's like files, but it's also about the communication on the top of the data. So everything is stored in cloud. People can access it, and they can make communication on the top of the data, which obviously is reducing amount of data flowing through emails and necessity later on to search what, who did, when. Everything is really in cloud, not only files, but also all information on the top of the data. And we do have functionality where you can see the data, and it's can be 3D, it can be 2D. It's not you know, an issue for us, and you can start a communication on the top of the data. And you can create issues, markups, and you can address it to the people. But it's not only about this. It's also about having possibility to report and create dashboards, what's happening. If some task has been assigned to you, if your task is over due date or not, with which document this is linked. So all information has to be accessed. And here you can see that it's a kind of mixture, because these titles are in Czech, user interface is English. Obviously, we have user interface in Polish, and obviously also here everything can be in Polish. So we have localized versions of our services. And let's have a look, like introduction, what is BIM 360, because this is our common data environment platform which we are using. So we are offering unlimited storage, unlimited number of the projects which you can bring into our cloud solution. And we have we are offering possibility to use web browsers to view the data. Basically, it means that you don't have to install anything on your desktop, and you can access the data and you can start work on it. And we are also offering possibility to use mobile devices like smartphones or tablets, and we are supporting iOS and Android operating system. So this is what we are offering, and again, I should mention that talking about visualization, we are offering possibility to visualize more than 60 different file formats. And it is not only about Autodesk formats, it's also about Exchange formats like IFC, for example. And if we have rights, also visualizing file formats of our competition. And let's have a look how it can look like. So I was talking about inner circle, basically the designers who are really working on the projects. And they, according to our opinion, they should have possibility to really collaborate live on the data. What does it mean for us? So for us, it means that we are offering possibility to not only share the files as a one document, but we are offering collaboration on the level of the objects, within the file. So, and here you can see that designer, he knows that land surveyor published a surface, basically a document with surface in cloud, and he's just bringing this surface as a base for his design, and then he's creating the design as he needs. And then at the end of the projects, he is populating these objects that they are available of course, he can select which objects will be available to the other stakeholders of the projects. So this is important point that we are offering not only collaboration on the files, but also on the objects within the files. And you can see that then he can, other stakeholders can utilize, for example, alignment, profiles, corridors, other surfaces, and so on and so forth. So this is in the level of this, as I called, inner circle. But then you have possibility also for other stakeholders, for all stakeholders to work with this data. And example can be, and here you can see that I am in the browser, I can view the BIM data, and I can compare the data. And I can compare 2D or a 3D model, and system will give me information automatically what has been modified, which objects has been modified, and I know what has been added, deleted, modified, and I can very easily, as a maybe project manager, I can very quickly can have a look and check what designer did and maybe how they move this particular pipe. So this is again on the level of the objects what we can do. We can do also model coordination, because if you are working on complex infrastructure projects with different stakeholders, you have to make sure that your data are clash-free, basically, that you have no clashes in your model as a, for example, BIM manager or BIM coordinator. So here you just, again, within the web browser, you will quickly select which models you want to check, and system will give you metrics, what are the clashes between different models, and then again you can visualize what are the problems, you know, so you can have a look and you can obviously sort it out the data, and then you can see what is clashing, you know, so system is giving you information what is clashing, and you can start to annotate it. So basically you can create issues which is telling to somebody, have a look, here is the clash, you should solve it. And this is the issue management in general. It's not only about creating issue on the top of, let's say, coordination model, but on the top of any model. So any stakeholder can visualize the data. And here is the different data. These data are, for example, coming from InfraWorks, not only necessarily from DWG file, Revit file, or IFC file. As I mentioned, more than 60 file formats can be visualized. And here, for this example of, for example, preliminary design. Somebody is checking the design and he's giving feedback that maybe this turning lane should be modified, and creating issue means that you are addressing this issue to somebody, which means the person will receive automatically email notification that issue has been assigned to the person, and he will receive automatically email with the link. Just clicking on the link, he will open the model exactly in the same location, and he can solve the issue. And obviously, solving issue means to go back to what we are calling authoring tool, in this case InfraWorks. He can change, for example, here the turning lane, the parameters of the turning lane, and just republishing the model into the cloud. System is automatically creating another version. And obviously this person will also notify the people, okay, I did it, so he's answering on the issue, and system is again automatically creating email notification to the originator of the issue. And it's not only about BIM 360. If we are talking about wider audience, we have possibility also to publish model, what we call Autodesk Viewer, which is a free version of BIM 360. Let's put it this way. You can publish your model for 30 days with all information available. Obviously the layers, the similar way like in BIM 360. However, However, here is just a link which you can share with other people, maybe with wider audience if you want so, and they can have a look at it. So, and they can look to 3D model, to plan views, whatever it is. So just to give you idea, it's not only about paid services, but it can be also free viewer. Again, more than 60 different file formats can be visualized here, and you can start communication. However, of course, this is for free, so there is no, let's say, issue management. There is no coordination. It's really for viewing purposes, maybe to make some measurement and so on, so forth. So the next, what I want to talk about is our strategy with OpenBIM. Autodesk is part of smart building smart, so basically we are contributing to building smart, and we are on the top of what is happening. So our authoring tools, which are mentioned here, like Civil 3D, Revit, and so on and so forth, they are certified for a different version of IFC of different available versions. And for example, here example of Civil 3D, we are certified for version 4.1, which is the latest, the ratified one. And the part of infrastructure which is related to this is, of course, alignment. And we can create alignment out of our tools. And here's just example from Civil 3D that you can export IFC just to show that we do have tools which are enabling it to export it and to create an IFC file, which can be later on shared, obviously, on BIM 360 with other stakeholders and maybe sent to the investor. And not only this, we still understand that 2D drawings are very important. So what we are offering is a country kit for Poland, basically that customers are capable of creating drawings based on local standards. So obviously we are an international company. However, we are localizing our products to the localizing and countryfying to the different countries. And here is just to give you example what is the architecture of our coordination and collaboration tool is BIM 360, where we can connect to the project data different products. And we do have also possibility to create, we are offering possibility of open API for third parties to create their own they own applications on the top of BIM 360. And just very briefly, we have for as a data storage BIM 360 docs. For design purposes, we have another module called BIM 360 design. For coordination, we have BIM 360 coordinate. For field execution, which I didn't cover here, is build, and for handover and operation docs. So just very quickly that we do have different modules which are fitting to different life cycle of the projects, and obviously with the different demand, because designer has definitely different requirements than a guy who is working on the construction site. So with that, thank you very much for your attention, and if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact either our partners, or you can contact me directly on tomas.lendworski@autodesk.com. With that, again, thank you very much for your attention, and I wish you a nice day with a lot of information coming with the next sessions in infraBIM. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas. Just stay with us online to the session with question and answers.
I will do.
Thank you.
Next presentation is by Maciej Kindler, BIM Manager, Developing and Managing BIM Team and Organization. Welcome, the floor is yours. Hi, Marek, welcome. Just a second, let me prepare and kick it off. Can you see the screen? Yes. Good. So I will clean it up a bit. So welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Maciej Kindler again here after our yesterday's presentation. Before I move on to the presentation itself, I would like to start by saying a few words of introduction, which will put what I'm going to speak about in some context. Over the recent years of my career, the recent 4 or 5 years, I gradually moved from being a specialist, technical specialist, to the role of a manager, of team manager, and at a certain stage also some kind of leader regarding BIM within the company. This path allowed me to learn certain things, to understand certain things better. I was learning first through HS2 project, where initially I did the strategy and plan, and then I was implementing them during implementation of the project, and therefore I had opportunity, together with Peter Raff, who was my partner in crime in this case, to create and develop a BIM team. And thanks to this experience, I could fluently move on to taking over the role of head of BIM, which is more at a central level. And in Skanska Infrastructure, Skanska UK, in infrastructure department, I managed a team of about 20 people implementing projects for the largest customers in the UK in infrastructural areas such as Bradford Rail, in railway, highways England, in roads, or various water agencies. So, in today's presentation, I would like to first touch on the topic why it is worth investing in BIM team at all, and why is it worthwhile to have it in your company, then how to create and develop this team. And then I would like to focus for a moment on various ways of managing BIM team, and then I would like to share some of my own experience and what I gained in the recent years of my work. So having a blank page, I would like you to consider for a few seconds which first companies come to your mind as your competitors when acting in construction market. I guess you have companies like Budimex there, unless one is employed there. Probably Skanska, Mostostal, Warbud, various kinds of road building companies, foreign ones, POR, for example, Strabag, operating in Poland, or various kinds of design companies, starting from the largest, like Arup, McDonald's, or CH2M, up to those which are more of local character. I'm considering if any of you have thought of these companies. Has anybody thought that these companies could be your competitors in construction area? If not, it is worthwhile to revise your opinion a bit. These are just a few opinions. Elon Musk, who is behind Tesla, is sending people to the global orbit. In future wants to send people to Mars. In free time, if he has any, he decided to drill tunnels, and he established a company that will be revolutionizing the market. Actually, Alphabet decided to Google or Alphabet decided to create new quality in approach to creating public space, and launched Sidewalk Labs project aimed at creating the city of the future, but not only at conceptual level, but at functional level as well, and also in implementation and construction, from designing through to construction. And Catera, not directly related to Amazon, but Amazon actually has such temptations. Catera taking over the Amazon model, I mean taking over the whole chain of production and supply, taking over the full control over this process, introducing completely new quality into how construction projects are implemented, and they offer almost, or actually catalog type houses built in identical way, but providing certain specific quality. And thanks to this, they optimize their spending, their margin. And these are companies which at this moment already very strongly, each of them is based on digitalization, on contemporary technologies, on achievements like those offered by BIM, GIS or CTE. And these companies, based on these technologies, are introducing new business models because they can see that this market has really a lot to catch up with. This is most probably known to you. If not, I suggest you to study McKinsey & Company's report, well-known graphics presenting how productivity increased. Of course, this chart is only related to the US, however, but in individual sectors of economy. And we, as construction, really have nothing to boast about. It doesn't mean we are in a lost position. There are certain examples which are aimed at duplicating well-existing models in prefabrication to duplicate them in construction. Many of you have heard of this project. I guess it was a project implemented for the first time many years ago. Now it is quite a common approach in Chinese market. And such buildings are built in greater and greater numbers. So this approach, which allows automation, is already breaking through to our market somehow. However, it is not common yet. It is something exceptional rather than typical. But first of all, it's worth asking yourself a question whether this approach is possible if we do it using these tools. If still, basis for us will be drawing with a pencil on paper, measuring with a measuring tape on concrete, and using calculator to do calculations. And perhaps the last but possibly most important point, whether we like it or not, this is the coming generation. If we want to extract well, capable people from this generation, not most, but capable and people ready to put into our system something, we must change something because the tools I mentioned will not attract them. A few words about how I was developing BIM team, and also under supervision with the support of directors, we created strategy to be establishing the team. First, you must have goal and vision. If you do it only to fulfill IR requirements and you have no idea what next and what for to have these people in your company, better avoid doing it. Better hire a consultant who will actually master this aspect for the given project, because otherwise it will raise frustrations in the company, at the client, and at your employees. So it is worthwhile to have an idea, goal, and vision. Why to introduce those people into the company? Among them, you must find leaders. Absolutely. I'm not talking of BIM manager or BIM directors or a person who will be managing that team. I'm also talking of leaders for individual sectors. BIM is a very broad topic now. There is not a single person who can cover all its aspects at a sufficient level. Each BIM manager or BIM coordinator has an area they specialize in, and in those areas you must create leaders. And it's also necessary to provide structure, because it is so differentiated environment, such a variety. There must be a structure defined which will allow people appropriate communication, understanding their duties, and effective operation. It is worth looking for gifted people within your company. Each of your companies have a couple dozen, couple hundred, or a couple thousand people, and in this scale you have at least one or several people who have a big gift, talent to be specialist coordinators, managers in BIM. Find them and give them a chance. But due to the fact that this is a relatively young market, especially in Polish conditions, but not only, because in the UK we had exactly the same problem. If opportunity appears to employ somebody who guarantees appropriate high quality and has already documented history and reputation, it is worthwhile to hire such a person, even if in the given moment you do not have a very specific position for that person. It is always worthwhile hiring such a person. You also have to award the best ones. I'm not talking of financial awarding, but giving them development opportunities for those people to improve their competences, because a small secret here about people working in BIM. Most of them are non-conformists, and what drives them most, it is an opportunity to do something new, differently and better. This is one of the best rewards they can get in their work. Being away from normal everyday reality. This is something motivating them constantly and strongly, but also, well, sending them to conferences, providing presentation for directors, project managers, so that these people feel that what they do is important for the company. Not only feel, but facts and activities must follow this, but this is one of the elements too. Respect experience. During this transformation, we had many cases where certain individuals who had experience necessary for the operation of the company, for example, in cost estimation or planning, no way fitted in the strategy and the activities we were taking up. And in specific cases, when these were people who really were offering certain skills and capacities, gifts nobody else had in the company, it is worth taking additional steps to assign to them, allocate to them younger people who are under training at this stage, but have great fluency in using new technologies, and devote the time of other employees to integrate those people. I do not advise you to cross out such people up front. And you have to be patient. If somebody establishing a goal for implementing BIM in the company, creating a team, or changing the ways the company operates, believe they can do it in 1 year, they can give up the plan by assumption and not take it up, because this will be money wasted. These are long-term, multi-year plans, activities, investments, which over time generate 100% return, but this is not done in 1 day, not even in 1 year. This is a never-ending path. This is constant. This is a question of creating a certain culture in which the company starts developing naturally, and the fact developing how the company works starts becoming an element of company culture and not a one-off incident because all others did it. So regarding managing the team itself, there are quite commonly understood two models between being a leader and being a manager. As a manager, I did provide the team with strategy plan and path of development. These are all elements creating the structure I mentioned, and provide people with space in which they can move about in a comfortably in this space. Each of those people must understand their role well, assuming that people will invent what their duties are, what they should be doing, what not. Sometimes works with some individuals who have exceptionally strong sense or understanding of the company operation and strong sense of what they want to achieve. But in most cases, you have to establish some minimum scopes of work that person must be doing. And also, yet another element is making sure that the team can communicate internally and externally. It is necessary to set up certain coordination meetings, platforms on which the team will be exchanging experience, a certain meetings where people will also be displaying what they had done over the recent period, what lessons they learned, what mistakes they made. But it is also necessary to set up the communication with external customers. That means with project managers, directors, and showing them that this team is really bringing in some specific quality into the quality of the into the work of the company. This may seem trivial, funny, maybe unnecessary, but as a leader, I was doing my best for everybody to feel welcome in the team, not to be a loner, to be a side. No, nothing by force. I never forced anybody to come outside their zone of comfort, but creating divisions in the team didn't work, at least in my case, and didn't lead to anything good. Next priority as leader of the team was, for me, creating the working environment naturally encouraging development. If people from the team were coming and telling me that they had some ideas, but each and every time I would be answering that they have to do what is in the project, which is important, and other things can be done over time. With the time passing, their initiative would be cut out, and the team would, well, harden like concrete and stop developing. So within the team, I made an assumption of 9-1. Within 2 weeks of work, there was one day that person could do things absolutely separate from what they were doing in the project, but what we wanted to do as a team or the company, or what was necessarily strictly related to providing or developing of the project, but could generate possibly benefits. During the week, it didn't have to be one day fixed. After every 2 weeks, it could be, spread 1 hour here, 2 hours there, but I wanted to create a space for those people where they could keep developing and make permanent progress. And what's most important, providing them with inspiration. Due to the fact that most BIM specialists are strongly involved in everyday implementation of projects, they have quite limited time available to go to conferences, to be constantly in touch with various foundations or other institutions which are involved in BIM development. So as manager, leader of the team, I did my best to gather these things and take over to those people who could benefit, who could use it best, and create relations which allowed natural development. So I did my best to merge both functions. And for me, the best scenario is one when the person managing the team is capable of both fulfilling administrative management duties, those of a typical manager, but can also introduce energy, vision, and plan into the team, and this additional element which would allow for development. So a few things I learned. Respect is the basis for good communication. I don't think if it needs any comment. Be or set an example. If being a team manager in BIM team, because in my case, being head of the team, every day you use a notepad, making notes. You have loads of paper on desk, and your favorite tool is Excel and email. Just think over whether you are the right person for this position, or if your working way is appropriate and right for this team. Be active in BIM area. In spite of the fact that over the recent 2 years I was not working on projects, I did my best to still keep my field, and those who joined yesterday knew that I'm specialized in 5D cost estimation based on BIM. It is worth having this technical skills area because you show the team that as a specialist you are an expert and you are not going away from this. Merge and support communication. Join people and support communication. Don't assume that people simply know. This is related both to the scope of work responsibilities and that communication I mentioned, but it's also about the fact that people are doing good work and that they did something valuable, or that errors they made are not completely atypical, and everybody can make them. And all the fact that we are not quite fully satisfied by their attitude or way of working, it's worth communicating such things to people. Don't assume that what you think is obvious. Such things have to be uttered. Listen to your people and let them lead. I also mentioned this already. It's worth creating the canvas and letting them paint, telling them what they can paint, and driving their hand, well, it can be destructive. Assume that everybody can make mistakes, creating culture. I'm not talking of one glorifying failures, and there is a culture which allows people to try and test. I'm not saying try over the whole year and state at the end it was fine but it didn't come out successful. No, but it is important to set an area, day two, where people can try, make an error and be back. Don't hesitate to make decisions. As team leader, you have to be able to solve conflicts and enter in certain moments. So although I was trying to give people possibly most field available, there were moments where decision was mine because they had to know that I am the leader of the team. Solve, don't create problems. So don't create conflicts, but de-escalate them and solve problems. Thank you for your kind attention. Thank you very much, Maciek. These were all the presentations planned for this first morning session. I'm just receiving questions which popped up on the chat, and it keeps going on, I can see. Most questions are addressed at Marcin. So let me start from comments before we start asking. Well, are everybody here already on the Zoom? Everybody are here. Do you hear me? Yes, great. Let me start from comments because they are highly positive, especially after Maciej's presentation by Maciej Kindler. Karol Buchholz, Maciek, excellent comments on operation of the team. I must admit that I tried to introduce similar features of leaders at my university. It is not a simple task. So, Karol Buchholz, Maciek, excellent comments on team operation. Kuba P, also positive comment. Nothing to add, nothing more, nothing less. This is how we implement our job. And Karol Buchholz, once again, we learn by making mistakes. Okay, so let us start from questions addressed at Maciej Kindler. Ignacy Łoziński, how, Marcin, you were looking for gifted people among employees? How did you know that that person was exceptional and was a talent you were looking for? It's a difficult question. It is a very difficult question, but perfectly double bullseye. I was lucky that my manager, when I was beginning my work in the company, was very well communicated with the whole department. He had access to all project managers and access to all design managers. He had a very good idea about what kind of stuff we have in our company, and this is this aspect of communication I mentioned. This is the awareness of your company, and through him I got some recommendations to a few people who were not finding themselves fully in the reality of the project because they always wanted more, and they were not specially satisfied by what they were doing on an everyday basis. So with each of them, I organized a meeting, and I devoted 1.5 hours to each of them so as to openly discuss, talk, and to see what drives those people. And here I was not looking at all at technical skills, capacity, but motivation and ambition were the only things of my interest. And by traveling from project to project, talking to people, I was identifying individuals who in the company had the potential and wanted something more. Well, it's not easy. Yes, you must have a sort of feeling, sense. From Michał Latała to Rafał Wójtowicz, what is the cost of BIM Vision for commercial use, and is it a totally Polish product? Well, product is totally Polish. In its basic version, the browser is totally free of charge, also for commercial use, but in extensions in the form of plugins are paid. We also had an adventure with BIM Vision. Together with Kamil and Marcin, we even prepared one plugin. So I really refer it to you. Very interesting project. Michał asks Maciej Kindler, is it better to hire 3 BIM managers or 1 BIM manager, 1 BIM planner, and 1 BIM analyst? Depending on what we have to do. If we have 3 projects to be delivered, we will need 3 BIM managers. But if we have 1 large project, probably a better solution would be in the diversification of those skills. From my perspective, I can tell you that when I was taking over the team over 2 years ago, I had the problem that the team was unbalanced. Out of 16 people who were on the team, I had 10 at level of seniors. It was too many. So the first action we had to take was to diversify the staff of the team and to hire additional people who would only be developing and learning. And among those 10 leaders, we in turn had to create some areas where they would specialize in. And I can assure you that out of 10 people, each of them had different specialization. 2 questions from Ignacy Łoziński to you, Maciek, as well. What did communication of your team look like from tools perspective? Well, from the tools perspective, we had the luck, and please do not take it as an advertisement, but we were lucky that 2 years ago the company invested in Office 365. Therefore, we got the full package of Teams, SharePoint, and so on. And around this, we built our inner communication of the team. Honestly, I do suggest you find for the team or a platform, a communication platform going away from traditional emails and creates more traditional, more fluent, natural way of exchange of thoughts. The second question is related to this continuation, whether emails or meetings. So practically in this case, you have already responded. Out of such things like meetings we introduced, we had weekly, Friday, half-an-hour meetings, at which rotationally every person from the team presented selected team. And did you do project management system like Agile or other philosophy? No, we introduced such things without awareness to some extent. I must admit we didn't do it in a systemic way by hiring consultants, agile specialists who would tell us how to do it. But finally, something like this resulted because it fitted into the culture of work we wanted to create, and this was in line with the ambitions of our directors. A question from Robert to Maciej as well. Were you using methods of lean, choosing stream mapping? Yes, by all means, all these methods appeared. Not all of them were motivated by the team and started from BIM team, because Mass Planner arose as initiative of the team responsible for planning. So this was quite differentiated, but the BIM team was always involved in the work and always created, or maybe not created, but formed the foundation of communication. So always BIM manager participated in this kind of workshops, activities, and implementations in order to make sure that we are drawing possibly most out of it. Thank you very much. And on behalf of the person asking questions, because now we only have comments, thanks for all your presentations. Thanks for responses from Maciej and Rafał. And Thomas, wrote clearly, I sign myself under Maciej's presentations and comments, priceless comments as usual. Thank you very much for your presentations. There are no more questions. Thank you for answers to the questions. And now we'll have a brief break, after which a plenary session and 6 workshops will follow. During this break, it will be a bit a typical premiere of my infrastudio. It will not be talk, an interview. It will be a dynamic film on loading big bridges on the ring road near Chernopol, which we did for Nowak Mosty company. Oh, one more question. I get into again to Maciek. Maciek, are you there? Yes, I am. Good. Do you think that we should follow the ways of management and work of companies known from IT, like Firmsklan? By all means, if the team is ready for it. But I mentioned that it is worthwhile to respect experience. So methods of work should always be selected for what the team is ready for, because imposing certain methods on them, which are not compatible with majority of the team and their habits or expectations, will not result in anything positive. So by all means, if only the team shows capacity to operate like this, yes. But I would like to highlight one thing. Perhaps, or maybe not perhaps, but I skipped it in my presentation, and I had it on the list to say this. Extremely important an element in all this jigsaw puzzle is supporting the top management of the company. From my side, I would not be able to achieve anything if I hadn't had the full trust and support from my directors, and I could always count on their advice and their experience, which maybe in other areas, but was priceless. That's true. I confirm it. Thank you very much. So. Back to what will happen during the break. So a typical premiere of our infrastudio, a quite dynamic film from a test load. If you haven't seen test load on bridges, big bridges, please enjoy it. This was a ring road near Czarnowąsy, and Nowak Mosty company was doing the construction. And thanks to TV Politechnika for doing this material. Enjoy the break, enjoy the premiere in infrastudio.